Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Breaking news, the entire sun has been bursting with solar activity over the past 24 hours. This is on the far side and also on the Earth-facing side. We have a solar storm inbound. Actually, we have quite a lot of small plasma storms headed towards Earth over the next few days. And we just had a gigantic coronal mass ejection on the far side of the sun. Very interesting timing because it happened exactly when Venus and Mars went conjunct together, and this is actually part of a triple conjunction because you see it occurred within 1 degree of the sun. So this is a Sun-Venus-Mars conjunction. We've been talking about how these sort of planetary alignments often result in significant solar activity. So you have to think that here is the Earth, and then the sun is directly in front of us. Venus is exactly 180 degrees opposite on the other side of the sun, and Mars is as well. We haven't had this close of a triple conjunction between Mars, Venus, and the sun since 2006. And that was more towards the descending phase of solar cycle 23. We are still right now at the boundary between solar maximum and the descending phase for solar cycle 25. So really good timing in terms of this sort of planetary alignment being able to provoke significant solar activity. That's what we saw. We have this perfect full halo shock wave going out, high velocity, fairly good density, both directions. Here we go, boom shakalaka. Check it out in our C3 chronograph. This is a wider view. You'll see Mercury start to appear at the end. We'll talk about that more. That's also performing a superior conjunction, but check it out right there. That is a nice full halo. And we saw this sort of activity back in 2006 as well. I have that posted on my Twitter X account. I've also shown that in some videos. I'll link that X post in the video description if you want to check that out. I have it all written up. But this shows that there is a large explosive sunspot group almost exactly or exactly opposite the Earth right now at this moment in time, because it is a perfect full halo. So it can only be deviated off if it is by just a little bit, maybe 1 day or so. So to go from the exact opposite side of the sun to exactly Earth-facing, center direct bullseye, all the things, that is about 2 weeks, 14 days. So we're looking at about 13 to 15 days for that active region to be Earth-facing indirect. If it remains on the sun, it stays active, and maybe it grows, maybe it diminishes and goes away. I'm not betting on the latter. I think the former is more likely. I think it's likely that we continue seeing these sunspots to get bigger and more explosive as we go forward because of this planetary effect. Mercury here performing its superior conjunction around that time frame. So in 2 weeks, that sunspot is going to be Earth facing. Mercury right around then is going to be on the other side of the sun. And we often see enhanced solar activity during these superior conjunctions of Mercury. The idea, at least one of them, is that you have these strong electric currents that emanate from the sun called Birkeland currents that connect down in the polar regions of a planet, Earth, or for example, Mercury in this case. Mercury is really close to the sun. So these strong electric currents come in. Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere like Earth does. At Earth, the Birkeland currents connect at the ionosphere, which is conductive, allowing for circuit closure. For Mercury, the idea is that they actually pierce through the crust of the planet and connect conductively at the core. And that allows for circuit closure. And as a result, that seems to change the larger electromagnetic dynamics of the sun, including the Earth-facing side of the sun, because with the superior conjunction of Mercury, Earth is always going to be on the other side. But we see that these plasma filaments that connect on the sun can travel all the way from one side to the other, and there are going to be multiple filaments connected together, these magnetic ropes of flux. Big explosion on the far side, perfectly timed with the Mars-Venus conjunction and the larger Mars-Venus-Sun triple conjunction, which we only see every 6.6 years or so, every 2,338 days approximately, but they are often not as precise as we are having right now. So that is really exciting. And we can see also that it's not just far side activity, it's also Earth-facing activity. So here's the first full halo. That's really nice, as you can see. But look at the second one that follows. That one is Earth-facing and direct because that is coming from a plasma filament that launched on the Earth-facing side of the sun. That is now double activity on both sides, which is with this planetary alignment that we have active, Jupiter, Earth, Sun, and then Venus and Mars. Mercury swinging into view as well. There's that big plasma filament. It's actually two of them. You'll notice one launches off, big canyon of fire, second burst is happening right now, and this one is actively destabilizing as we speak. So we probably have more plasma coming in, but most of that is going to the south of the Earth, but it does appear that we are going to get hit because, as you can see with this, the bulk of the plasma will show up here, but we do get this shock wave going out all directions. Watch right here. There it is. We do see a shock wave going out in all directions. And we can look at our other coronagraph imagery to confirm this, and we see this first full halo, that's the far side event, but here we see the other one. Check out the shock wave that's going out in all directions. It's definitely much denser here off to the southeast, but there is still quite a big component in general going this way. So a lot of that plasma is going to bypass the Earth, but not all of it. As you can see, we are looking like there's a solar storm inbound, and the solar wind right now is already enhanced. Here's our solar activity for the past 7 days, and you see that we've had some pockets of increased solar wind turbulence as the solar wind magnetic field has strengthened and also gone southward, meaning it connects nicely to Earth's magnetic field. And you see that each time that's happened, we've had this bump up in geomagnetic volatility, as represented here by our KP index, a measure of the swings in Earth's magnetic field strength at the surface using an index going from 0 to 9. So when you have these yellow bars, that means you're in a geomagnetic storm. That's a G1 right there, because we only went up to a value of 5 and then 4.67, and these little bumps here, 4.33, didn't quite get all the way to G1 level. Same here, 4.33. Though this was quite significant, we see it went all the way up to a field strength of 11 nanotesla, normal is 5, and -10, which is quite a good connection to Earth. But it wasn't long lasting enough to really create a big burst of activity. Solar wind velocity was very low. If it was higher, it would have created more geomagnetic volatility. Solar wind density is fairly high, and we see that we even went up to 13 nanotesla now. Field strength is still about 10, 2 times stronger than normal. So we are seeing elevated solar wind conditions right now that are kind of volatile, not necessarily leading to intense geomagnetic volatility at this moment in time, but we're not in super quiet geomagnetic or solar wind conditions. So when we start to have these waves of plasma hit us, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And we have more than just that. We also have a coronal hole in the sun. Let's check it out. Here we have our 211 angstrom imagery of the sun, colored using our 193 angstrom filter. And we see this large coronal hole on the sun here with a very unusual shape. This is a trans-equatorial coronal hole. This is like a cleaning function that they do every now and then. This is a trans-equatorial coronal hole right there with a negative polarity, just now entering into the geoaffected position. So we're not going to be connected to that magnetic field structure in that solar wind high-speed stream for that long because it's fairly narrow, but we will be connecting to it. It is going to sweep by us. That is expected to increase geomagnetic volatility within the next 24 hours or so. And these sort of coronal holes are well associated with high magnitude earthquakes. Sometimes they just provoke magnitude 6 earthquakes. Sometimes we get bigger magnitude 7 or even magnitude 8 earthquakes. There's a rich history of that, of observational data. This one's interesting in that it cuts through the trans-equatorial part, but it also goes up here into northern hemisphere and then slices back down. So we may even get like a second burst of high-speed solar wind a few days afterwards. In fact, last time the structure passed by about a month ago, we had multiple bumps up in the solar wind. So that is likely what we have coming in. And that is not all. We've had quite a lot of activity on the sun over the past few days, a whole bunch of C-class flares, which normally I wouldn't really comment on because they're not doing much. But if you watch this, you will notice that sunspot group 4334 has been quite busy, and that is the area where we had this plasma filament destabilized. You can see it in the video here. There's that filament, and you'll see this destabilization at the end. So if you watch the beginning, you'll notice that it keeps pumping off these puffs of plasma there. And so this is like all C-class activity, and it's really quite surprising that we're getting such big releases of plasma from such a small sunspot group with a low rating in terms of its solar flare activity. But if we go to our NASA Space Weather Models site here, we see our catalog of events. And we'll go to the latest one, which that they have modeled for. That is a 4.4 C-class flare. We can look at the result here, and we see that there is this wave that is sweeping by the Earth. This is the sun, that's the Earth right there. Soon we see it lined up here. So it's a flank impact on both counts, but we can go forward again. Let's go to this C7.4 flare that occurred. These are all just over the past couple of days. We'll check out that model. Here we see it's fainter, but again, fairly close to Earth, kind of a flank impact there. We can go to the next one up, a 2.9 C-class flare. Check out this model, and you'll see it's the same story. A whole bunch of flares have launched a lot of plasma out towards Earth's orbit. Some of it is going to be behind the Earth. Earth is moving this way, but in general, they're either flank impacts or more direct hits. And we can see this most recent one that launched that plasma filament, and it looks quite a bit more intense. So here it is. We'll see this nice burst of activity there, and then a follow-up at the end, which is the imagery coming in right now at this moment in time. That has not been modeled by NOAA, but we do see that chronograph imagery as we saw. So it looks like we have quite a bit of turbulence coming in over the next few days. How big of a storm is going to hit from this plasma filament, and especially if that second one continues to destabilize and launch out, that's an unknown. But I would not be surprised if you get G1 conditions or even G2 conditions. Sometimes the way these things stack up and the fact that the solar wind's already enhanced right now means that we could be looking at something more significant than you would think. It's really, there's a lot of uncertainty with this. But in general, stepping back, huge explosion on the far side of the sun, multiple explosions and significant destabilizations of plasma on the Earth-facing side of the sun, all during this planetary alignment that's active right now. That really tells you something. Let's check out that planetary alignment really quick. If you haven't watched the channel, this is your first time, hello, welcome. I'm your host, Stefan Burns. You haven't seen this then because I've been talking about this a lot. Let's just quickly show you it. Here we have Jupiter, Earth, Mercury, Venus, and Mars all in a line. This is today, January 8th, and you see that it's a really nice alignment here. So this is very rare. Last time we had an alignment this nice of this specific arrangement was back in 1936. And then 2006, as I mentioned, also we saw something similar to this. We can go to 2006 so I can show you. But you'll see that Jupiter, in fact, was on the other side at that time. It was working with Venus and Mars. So we can, that's 2004 now. Let's go here. We'll see it suddenly form right there. And here's our alignment in 2006. You see that Venus and Mars got fairly close. Mercury on the Earth-facing side this time, about to perform an inferior conjunction, whereas this time it's on the other side, swinging around like this. And Jupiter this time is on the far side. It followed up with its superior conjunction shortly afterwards. As you can see, this occurred in October, then that occurred in November. So some changes as to 2006 versus 2026, but they are very similar. And back in 2006, we first had the Mars-Venus conjunction with the sun, and then we saw those sunspots turn face Earth, and boom, we got hit with two big solar storms. So I think that is certainly possible going forward. And we can also look at our radiation belts here to understand the possible impact of a solar storm on the Earth if it is to occur. The radiation belts are a very important component of Earth's overall geophysical system, and they make up the dominant body of plasma in the plastosphere. And so when they are fully charged, that means we're more likely to have enhanced geomagnetic volatility, because what happens is this solar storm comes in, it pushes in on Earth's magnetic field, causing the radiation belts to precipitate down towards the Earth, and the magnetic field swings that re-register at the surface, those are generated primarily from electric currents in the ionosphere, the uppermost part of the atmosphere, which is charged. So when they precipitate down all these speed of light ions, effectively, they're relativistic. They're traveling near the speed of light. Earth is a particle accelerator, if you didn't know. It's really cool stuff. That will then generate these really powerful electric currents, which an electric current creates a magnetic field. If it's pulsating, it'll pulsate the same frequency. There's your geomagnetic storm. So you get stronger geomagnetic storms when the radiation belts are fully charged, and they are very well charged right now. Here we see our graph across time, and they have been more charged up just about a day or so ago because some of the solar wind turbulence has caused a little bit of precipitation downwards, but they'll likely recharge quite a bit after this passes. And then if that sunspot lines up again later in January around the superior conjunction of Mercury, that's also in alignment with 3i Atlas and Pluto at the same time, which is interesting, then we could see some big activity. We also have an update on 3i Atlas, some new imagery from Hubble. We can check that out right here. So this is the latest Hubble imagery from the 7th of January. If you haven't watched my video on 3i Atlas and its debris stream, then I recommend you check that out. I'll link that in the video description. We go over what could occur in March and April as it relates to Earth orbiting through the remnant dust, debris, plasma tail left by 3i Atlas around its perihelion. So that is definitely something to be aware of. This was processed by Tony Scarmato. The raw data is listed on the Hubble website. I'll put that link in the video description, but he went ahead and did some processing of this, and just to basically show the coma here, we see the anti-tail. So this is the sunward direction, and we see that it's in general fairly symmetrical, but we do see this anti-tail. And we'll probably get some new processing from Tony as well in terms of resolving those jet structures, because in the prior processing he did of the Hubble data, he applied a filter that removes circular features, allowing you to see any non-circular features, which primarily would be the jets. And we've been seeing intense jet activity from 3i Atlas. But we can see that this anti-tail is still very clearly a prominent characteristic of this interstellar object, which is bizarre. And that's also showing that while it's leaving the solar system and moving further and further away from the sun at this moment in time, it's actively blasting material towards the sun because of this anti-tail. So we're going to be passing through that debris stream very, very soon in just March and April, just a few months away from now. So that is definitely something to be aware of, and that's a big, effectively, X factor as to the next few months. In terms of earthquake activity, an interesting thing here is that we had this 5.5 deep earthquake, Fiji Islands, 547 kilometers, and that occurred right as Mars and Venus went conjunct with that explosion on the far side, and it is also in line with that. So the actual position of the Earth, Fiji was in that alignment. Deep earthquake could perhaps mean that we have a bigger earthquake shallower up coming soon. That's definitely something to be aware of. Looks like we just had this 5.5 come in Peru here, so near Ecuador. I believe that's Peru. Yeah, but near Ecuador. So that's a pretty big land-based earthquake at a depth of 107 kilometers, so 2 deep earthquakes. And then we also, late last night, had this 4.2 come in Cloverdale, and also there's a 2.7 aftershock. So that is a pretty unusual earthquake. There is a Clear Lake here, and there's some volcanic systems in this area. We have the geysers nearby. But if you learn about California earthquakes, and right now California is on high alert for a variety of factors, as I've talked about in one of my just recent videos, is that you will see no earthquakes within this block here. Here we see the San Andreas Bend. That is where a lot of stress builds up, and that is why this part of the San Andreas can get big magnitude 8 earthquakes. And then you won't see any earthquakes in this block right here. Like across the entire historic record, there's effectively no magnitude 3s, 4s, anything like that. But you do get some earthquakes right here going from Cloverdale up to Ukiah and then further in. But this coastal range right there doesn't get any earthquakes. So when I first saw that come in, I was wondering if it was within the block or not. Turns out it's in that zone where we do get some earthquakes. 4.2 could be suggesting that we're going to have a bigger slip come in. It could also just be a 4.2. California does get them. It's not impossible, but California doesn't get earthquake activity like Mexico, like Japan, like most of the Ring of Fire. And the biggest clues that you will get for higher magnitude earthquakes are these lesser magnitude 4s and some of the earthquake swarms. So you do have to pay attention to these and look at them like a detective. But you also can't get carried away because they are fairly frequent in the grand sense, but they are your clues as to what perhaps could be coming. And what, in the past, what has happened before. So that's the earthquake activity. That coronal hole, I suspect, is going to stimulate some larger earthquakes over the next few days, especially once that solar wind velocity is high and the solar wind density is low. That's the key time period. So I think we're more likely to have some magnitude 6+ earthquakes for the next week or so, and perhaps even up to 6.5, 7, 7.5 once you add in the planetary alignment. Like right now is a critical time period for earthquake and solar activity, and we're already seeing this start to manifest clearly, as you can see, with this incredible sequence of events here, this convergence of energy between Venus, Mars, the Sun, and that big solar storm launch from the far side, and also that plasma filament that destabilized on the Earth-facing side. All of them exactly in a line, folks. One of the biggest earthquakes of the day, 5.5, Fiji, also in that alignment too. It's a deep one. So really interesting stuff occurring right now within our solar system. I think this is likely to continue. And that's your space weather and Earth geophysics update for today, January 8th, 2026. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Subscribe to stay up to date with what is happening with the Earth energetically. This is earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, geomagnetic storms, severe weather, so much more, as well as solar activity, space weather, planetary alignments and resonances, interstellar and cosmic forces. We talk about consciousness, a whole bunch of interesting things. We will raise the curtain for you so you can see what is happening here on the planet and beyond. So I hope to see you around. And a quick announcement before signing off, and that is two things. We are back in stock with Festivity, our newest tea blend, which is perfect for this time of year. This is a very special tea blend composed of apple, cherry, and burdock root, as well as licorice root, chamomile, and then a spice blend of clove, allspice, star anise, and cinnamon. It's super tasty. It is by far the tastiest tea that you will ever have. It's like dessert in a cup, but it's 0 calories. I mean, maybe there's like a little bit of calories because of the apple and the cherry, but it's a tea. You're not eating them. Though you can take the remnant product after you've brewed it. Once it's cooled down, you can blend it up, mix it into a cake mix, and it actually makes incredible cakes because this is super good stuff. It's all organic other than the apples and the cherries. Wasn't able to get good organic versions of those, but the ones I have don't have any sulfites or additives or sugar or anything. So it's really high quality stuff, 6 ounces per bag, and really good beyond just for your taste buds and for creating these feelings of comfort and coziness and warmth and cheer, but also really good for your health. The spice blend is fantastic for your gut. Allspice, clove, cinnamon, star anise, these are all really good for your gut and for making sure that everything is working properly and that you don't have any baddies in there. So this is definitely a tea blend to pick up. You can drink it, you can eat it too, you can make a mulled wine out of it. It's really fantastic stuff, and a lot goes a long way. Another announcement too for the Boom Shakalaka hoodie is that, just FYI, if you order one, the extra large size is currently out of stock, coming back in stock in just a day or two. So if you ordered that, your order will ship out fairly soon, but there is a bit of a delay with that. And this is our latest merchandise for the channel. So if you want to pick this up, you can. Sizes small to XXL, and it has this artwork on the front here, which I think is really quite fun. You can really see that clearly here. It shows the Boom Shakalaka dog and everything that's happening effectively on our planet. We have the meteors, the comets, UFOs, the solar explosions, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, everything. So this is a lot of fun to wear. Every time I've worn mine out, I've always gotten some people to comment on it, and you likely will as well. And this is a great way to show your support of the channel. There's a whole bunch of other products as well on the website. This is again earthevolution.com/store. I recommend you check it out. And the top sellers, of course, spirituality and herb coffee. Everything is in stock. So if you've been waiting to pick something up, well, now is the time, because I can't guarantee that we're going to have good stocking going forward, because there's a lot of flux right now with suppliers. And also in February, likely going to be taking a little of a break in shipments, because my dad, who fulfills the orders, is going to be having some heart surgery. So please say your prayers for him, but we're gonna have to take a little pause on this in February. So if you'd like to get something, make sure you pick it up now this month, especially before February begins. So thank you all so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. The energies are really crazy right now, I know. So just do what you can to stay calm, cool, relax. Grounding is key. Eat good food, treat yourself well. I'll see you all in the next video.